If you remember flipping on CBS after work and laughing your ass off at a divorced mom juggling two teenage girls and that wisecracking superintendent in plaid who always had a cold beer and a one-liner ready, then One Day at a Time 1975 is pure nostalgia rocket fuel for you. 9 seasons, 209 episodes, a show built on the idea that a messy modern family could make it, one day at a time. What happened to the people who made that argument is far more complicated. Let's see where they are in 2026. Pat Harrington Jr. as Dwayne F. Schneider. Pat Harrington Jr. was born Daniel Patrick Harrington Jr. on August 13, 1929 in New York City. He was already 46 when One Day at a Time premiered, a veteran comic actor whose razor-sharp timing and that instantly iconic mustache turned the building super into the guy every viewer wanted to grab a beer with. Norman Lear caught him in guest spots and wrote the plaid shirts, tool belt, and endless unsolicited advice straight around him.
Building superintendent who's also...
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sitting on my hammer. Oh, jeez.
Schneider was the ultimate blue-collar everyman dropped into a feminist apartment building. Chauvinistic on the surface, lovable underneath. The comic relief with real heart who delivered more one-liners than anyone else on the call sheet. In 1984, he became the only cast member to win an acting Emmy for the show, taking home Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series and cementing his place as the 1970s blue-collar icon who represented the old world meeting the new feminist era. The mustache super who walked into a building full of independent women with his tool belt and old school advice and somehow made chauvinism charming instead of threatening.
After all, you are a woman of the divorced persuasion. Well, here I am. Use me.
He was the voice of the working man who didn't fully understand the changing times but tried anyway, and America laughed with him, not at him. Backstage, he was the total pro. Zero drama, just rock-solid work. He and Bonnie Franklin shared a close friendship that anchored the entire cast.
I was staggered by how good she looked. She had a new manager and
the production paid him roughly $15,000 an episode in the later seasons and handed him that Emmy in 1984. But he missed the massive syndication payday that would have followed. He escaped typecasting with voice work and guest spots, embraced every convention and reunion, and never pushed for the 2017 reboot. Married twice, 3 kids, and a net worth that sat comfortably around $2 to $3 million. But here's where things get quietly heartbreaking. Late in life, Alzheimer's slowly stole the sharpest mind in the building.
Miss Monroe, would you come in here for a minute, please?
Pat Harrington Jr. passed on January 6, 2016 at 86 from complications of the disease. The guy who never fixed a single thing on screen fixed a permanent place in every boomer guy's heart forever. Bonnie Franklin as Ann Romano. Bonnie Franklin was born Bonnie Gale Franklin on January 6, 1944 in Santa Monica, California. She was just 31 when cameras rolled, a Broadway-trained redhead with no bullshit energy who basically invented the strong single mom archetype for network television.
Bonnie and the Franklins.
Who are the Franklins then?
My family.
Your whole entire family?
My whole entire family. There are 21 of us.
Norman Lear cast her after seeing her stage chops. Ann Romano became every working divorced mother juggling kids, dates, and independence before anyone called it girl boss. She carried the show with quiet exhaustion that never felt fake.
All right, Ed, that's another man in my apartment. When I entertain,
The heart, the humor, the steel spine that made the whole family believable. Backstage, she was the emotional anchor, motherly to Valerie and Mackenzie, tight with Pat, professional even on the toughest days. Lead salary was solid, reports of $40,000 an episode later, but there was no huge back-end windfall. She had one marriage that ended in divorce and a long-term partner afterward. She never had children of her own, yet mothered an entire generation through the television set.
We had to be responsible in the show, but you know, I've never had children. I'm on this show under false pretenses, so.
She pushed hard for serious topics week after week, and the audience felt every ounce of it. But here's where things get really devastating. Pancreatic cancer moved fast. Bonnie Franklin passed on March 1st, 2013 at 69. She played the mom every guy secretly wished his ex had turned into. Strong, funny, and achingly real. Mackenzie Phillips as Julie Cooper. Mackenzie Phillips was born Laura Mackenzie Phillips on November 10th, 1959. She was only 16 when the show started. Fresh off American Graffiti, Julie captured the complicated teenager dealing with drugs, family tension, and growing up in a brand new kind of household.
Because I'm so deeply genetically predisposed to addiction and alcoholism.
She wasn't acting the chaos. For stretches of the series, she was living it. The money reportedly reached $50,000 an episode at her peak, but it didn't stick.
I do have the right to do anything I want with the man I'm engaged to. Engaged?
Behind the scenes, the cast watched severe drug addiction lead to her being fired twice. Bonnie and Valerie stayed close through the storms. Life delivered the hardest blows: the shocking incest revelation with her father, John Phillips, multiple rehabs, and the grief of watching her screen family navigate real pain.
And so I had to tell the truth that I was sexually abused by my father.
But here's where things get inspiring. She got sober, wrote a memoir, turned her wreckage into recovery work, and even returned for the 2017 reboot. Multiple marriages, one son, and now at 66 in 2026, she stands on stages at conventions telling the unvarnished truth. As of early 2026, her recovery story has taken on powerful new life. She serves as a full-time counselor at Breathe Life Healing Center in California, guiding others through trauma and addiction with the same raw honesty she once brought to Julie. On March 28, 2026, she delivered a sold-out keynote speech on trauma recovery at a national mental health conference in Los Angeles.
Now I feel like I'm not alone, and I felt so alone, and nobody ever talks about this, and there's very little in this world that is taboo.
Proving once and for all that she turned her wild child past into a life-saving career that has touched thousands of lives. The wild child who lived the hardest one day at a time of them all lived to tell it, and now helps others write their own next chapter. Mary Louise Wilson as Ginny Roblicki. Mary Louise Wilson was born in 1931. She joined in season 2 as the quirky apartment manager who gave Schneider a run for his money, a Broadway comedian who brought neighbor energy that felt instantly lived in. The role was supporting, the pay modest.
Will you do me the honor of marrying me?
No.
But she made the building feel more like a real community. But here's where things get interesting behind the scenes. She was unhappy with the part and asked to leave after season 2. The show let her go without drama. No major tragedies followed. She bounced straight back to Broadway and built a legendary stage career that dwarfed the television footnote. As fans gathered in January 2026 for One Day at a Time reruns, they were still mourning her passing just weeks earlier. Mary Louise Wilson left us on March 7th, 2026 at 95. Long before she ever played the quirky neighbor, she had already won the 2007 Tony Award for Best Featured Actress in a Play for her searing performance in Grey Gardens.
Mary Louise Wilson, Grey Gardens!
A 44-year veteran actress on Broadway.
Proof she was never just a sitcom neighbor, but a global stage legend who commanded Broadway with the same quirky precision she once brought to that apartment hallway. The neighbor who didn't quite click on One Day at a Time simply moved on to the stage where she always belonged. Howard Hessman as Sam Royer. Howard Hessman was born on February 27, 1940. He stepped in during the later season.
My agent, my PR man, they said it would look like my career was on the skids, like I needed the work.
Already famous as Johnny Fever from WKRP in Cincinnati, as Ann's laid-back, hippie-ish boyfriend who eventually became her husband. Sam gave Ann the peace the show had been promising. His chill vibes and easy smile made the family feel complete for the first time. He brought professional calm to the set and supporting level pay.
Ah!
What's the matter? What happened?
I cut my finger on a spoon.
The role was never the star turn, but it mattered. But here's where things get quiet and final. Health issues slowed him in his later years. Howard Hessman passed in 2022 at 81 from complications following colorectal surgery.
Bad news from Hollywood. Actor Howard Hessman has died at the age of 81.
He left a wife and family who had watched him give Ann her happy ending after years of playing the ultimate radio rebel. The chill husband who finally gave Ann her happy ending had already been Johnny Fever, and the audience loved both versions. Nanette Fabray as Grandma Catherine Romano. Nanette Fabre was born Ruby Bernadette Nanette Faberez on October 27, 1920. She was 55 when she joined as recurring and then main cast. A veteran with Tony-winning pedigree and a real-life family connection, her niece Shelley Fabre was already on the show. Grandma Catherine flew in with feisty one-liners and warm hugs, representing the older generation clashing with 1970s independence.
Catherine.
Oh, Gus, this is crazy.
Who cares?
I know, but we don't know each other.
We know enough.
Her own hearing impairment even inspired honest storylines. Backstage, she was warmth itself. Positive, generous, the veteran presence everyone leaned on. One child, 2 marriages, veteran-level pay. But here's where things get beautifully long. She retired after a legendary career and simply lived. Nanette Fabre passed in 2018 at 97, having done it right for nearly a century. The grandma who brought the wisdom and the one-liners lived long enough to see every lesson she taught on screen become real life. Richard Mazur as David Kane. Richard Mazur was born on November 20th, 1948 in New York City. He was 27 when the show launched, a stage-trained actor cast as Ann's charming, level-headed lawyer boyfriend in the early seasons. David was the nice guy, navigating post-divorce dating in the 70s with real awkwardness and quiet decency.
Besides, I look at least 29, you don't look a day over 30, so really we're talking about a difference of a couple of months here.
Standard supporting pay. He left after creative differences with Norman Lear over the slow burn romance. Professional backstage. No feuds, no public scandals. But here's where things get quietly impressive. Beyond his steady acting career, he served as president of the Screen Actors Guild, leading the union through critical negotiations that protected performers' rights for an entire generation. Married with children, still acting steadily. At 77 in 2026, Richard Mazur remains solid, with a comfortable net worth earned over decades. The boyfriend who got written out so Ann could stay single turned out to be the one the audience cheered for anyway. Michael Lembeck as Max Horvath. Michael Lembeck was born on June 25th, 1948 in Brooklyn. He joined mid-seasons at about 27 as Julie's straight-laced husband, the responsible son-in-law who absorbed every eye roll from Schneider.
It's really up here is where it really... yep, that's it. That's the spot.
Max provided the calm contrast the chaotic family needed. Supporting salary, professional set, good relationships with everyone. No major tragedies. But here's where things get triumphant. After the series, he transitioned seamlessly into directing, helming the entire Santa Claus trilogy. 3 holiday blockbusters that turned him into a Christmas staple for families every single year. Married to Lorna Patterson with 2 children, never in the reboot. At 77 in 2026, Michael Lembeck is still directing and still in the game. The guy who married the wild daughter and somehow made it work, then directed his way to Hollywood gold. Shelley Fabares as Francine Webster. Shelley Fabares was born on January 19, 1944 in Santa Monica. She was 31 when she appeared recurring as Ann's flirty, competitive co-worker and rival. Her spark turned guest spots into recurring gold. The real-life aunt-niece connection with Nanette Fabre added extra warmth. Supporting money, positive set relationships, office rivalry that grew into something more. But here's where things get sweetly full circle. She went on to a big run on Coach, then chose quiet retirement. Married, no major public tragedies. At 81, turning 82 in 2026, Shelley Fabre lives quietly but still remembers the role fondly. The rival who became family, and brought her aunt with her. Ron Rifkin as Nick Handress. Ron Rifkin was born in 1939. He joined in season 6 and beyond as Julie's second husband and Alex's dad, the more serious, business-type guy who shook up the family dynamic with mature relationship drama. Supporting salary for a short but impactful run, low drama, professional set. But here's where things get steady. Long post-show career on Alias, stage work, and teaching. Married with family, comfortable net worth from decades of consistent roles. At 82 in 2026, some records list him slightly older at 86, Ron Rifkin is still acting and teaching. The boyfriend who didn't last, but his son stayed in the family. Kay Callan as Margaret Butterfield. Kay Callan was born in 1936. She appeared recurring in the early seasons as Chuck's sharp-tongued mom, the parental side-eye every viewer recognized from their own life. Supporting pay, professional set. But here's where things get enduring. Steady character actress work for decades afterward. Married with children. At 89 in 2026, Kay Callan is still with us, still kicking, and still fondly remembered. The sharp-tongued mom who brought the parental side-eye we all knew too well. Boyd Gaines as Mark Royer. Boyd Gaines was born in 1953. He joined in the later seasons as Barbara's steady, good guy husband. The kind of son-in-law every parent hopes their daughter will bring home. Supporting pay, professional set, no big drama. But here's where things get award-winning. He became a Tony Award-winning Broadway star with steady television and stage work, married with children. At 72 in 2026, Boyd Gaines still acts on Broadway and television and still embraces the legacy at conventions. The steady husband who proved nice guys finish first and still do on Broadway. Glenn Scarpelli as Alex Handress. Glenn Scarpelli was born in 1966. He joined as a kid in seasons 6 and 7 as Nick's smart-mouthed son who moved in and became the new kid of the building. Young actor pay, clean break after the show. No drama, just a deliberate exit from acting. But here's where things get refreshingly self-made. He stepped away entirely and built a successful design business. Openly gay, married to John Ritchie Jr., at 60 in 2026, Glenn Scarpelli runs his company and occasionally shares the "I got out young" story at cons. The kid who moved in and then walked away from Hollywood on his own terms. Valerie Bertinelli as Barbara Cooper. Valerie Bertinelli was born on April 23, 1960 in Wilmington, Delaware. She was only 15 when the show started, the cute, sarcastic younger daughter Norman Lear spotted after a small role. Barbara was the girl-next-door crush for half the guys watching in the 70s, showing teenage normalcy and growth amid the chaos. Good teen star money plus Golden Globes. She built an empire on it. Backstage, she was the supportive little sister, especially to Mackenzie during the hard years. Weight struggles, divorce from Eddie Van Halen, they share son Wolfgang, later divorce from Tom Vitale, all lived publicly. But here's where things get victorious. In March 2026, she launched a major book tour for her new memoir, Getting Naked, drawing packed crowds from coast to coast as she opened up about life after the spotlight. That same month, she ignited the gray hair revolution when she went fully natural on social media, a viral moment that racked up millions of views and inspired women everywhere to embrace aging on their own terms. The contrast couldn't be sharper. The fresh-faced girl next door of 1975 is now the 65-year-old queen of authenticity in 2026, turning vulnerability into her brand with Hot in Cleveland, Food Network stardom, best-selling books, and a net worth around $20 million. At 65 in 2026, Valerie Bertinelli is still acting, still cooking on television, and looking fantastic. The girl next door who grew up on your TV and then taught you how to cook and how to age unapologetically. One Day at a Time ran for 9 seasons, 209 episodes, and one honest promise: that a modern, messy, divorced family could keep showing up, one day at a time. The people who built that promise received the full range of what life actually delivers. One super fixed hearts instead of pipes and lost his own memory at the end. One mom gave every working mother a blueprint and then left too soon. One daughter lived the chaos she played and came out the other side to help others. One grandma lived nearly a century doing it right. One chill husband gave Ann peace after years of being Johnny Fever. One boyfriend got written out but built a lifetime of steady work. One straight-laced son-in-law directed his way to gold. One rival became family. One serious second husband added depth. One sharp-tongued mom kept delivering side-eye for decades. One steady husband proved nice guys win on Broadway. One kid walked away from fame on his own terms. One girl next door turned into a cooking superstar who still makes us smile. The show said you could do it one day at a time. It wasn't always easy, but the people who made that case, week after week, in that rent-controlled apartment that never existed, gave us laughter, honesty, and hope worth more than they ever received. Every one of them.